He'd kind of been built up. You know, he's kind of an aloof guy. I went in and met him, and I kind of, when I was in the Army, said, gee, what would be worse, to go to fight in Korea or go study under Sandy Meisner?
Sandy, to me, was a teacher. He was the only teacher to me. I mean, and with all due respect to everybody else.
And Meisner came into, excuse me, Sandy, Mr. Meisner, God. He was not my father. He was nobody's father. He was your teacher. He was your mentor. He had standards, and you better cut it, or you weren't back. But that was the reality of the world that you were preparing yourself for. And anybody who left the neighborhood playhouse left prepared to go to work the next day.
Oh, I don't think I was ever comfortable. No. I think it was 2 years of stress and strain, almost unrelieved. Some moments were better than others. Once in a while you would do an improvisation and get a slight nod of approval from Sandy, and that would be a red letter day. And there were other days when it was disaster.
Especially my generation of the 60s, he was a man who actually knew something. One of the first authentic people that I and most of us had ever met in our lives. And of course he was autocratic about those things he believed in because he knew them to be the truth. And we knew we were being exposed to the truth, that is, to something which was absolutely practicable, and which absolutely worked, and which we wanted desperately to learn.
I was talking to a young actress who went to the neighborhood playhouse. This is recently. And to hear her talk about Sandy, the kind of respect that she had for him and the excitement that she felt was what we felt 20 or 30 years before. And I thought, isn't it marvelous? Here's a man who has had a laryngectomy and he's gone through the tortures of the damned physically. And the spirit is indomitable. That comes through very clearly. I mean, I loved it that she was still apprehensive about, you know, I said, would you dare be late for a class? She said, oh, never.
So here we are at the beginning. Why are you sitting here so silently? Waiting for me to say something out of this world.
In the first class that we had, Sandy asked, what do you think is the craft of acting? What is acting? And it was the first class, the first day, and some poor schmuck raised his hand and started telling everything he learned in college about acting, and went on and on and on. And Sandy listened for a few minutes, and he finally went, shut up, you talk too much. And with a twinkle in his eye, I mean, he wasn't, but his point was made, you know, that it wasn't a school for sort of working from here. And he said, the seed to the craft of acting is the reality of doing. It's the first thing he ever taught us. And from there, I was on a roller coaster of 2 years of his method.
Listen for the sounds that come from the street. Let's say the car, the number of cars you can hear coming from the street. Do that now. Let me ask you this. Did you listen as yourself or were you playing some character? Did you do it in character, theatrically, or did you count?
Yeah, me, I counted.
You counted.
Yeah.
What about you?
First I was listening as a student, like
The character, yes.
and then I was confused because I couldn't decipher, I couldn't hear a car, and the sounds were confusing. And then I heard what I thought, I'm pretty sure it was a car. And then I got bored, and then I heard another car, so I heard two cars.
We won't discuss the boredom. So part of your acting was legitimate.
Yeah.
And 2/3 of it was fake.
Yes.
What do you do when you teach acting, Sandy? I mean, is it possible to talk about? Like, what does an acting teacher do? What are you teaching?
When I first began to teach, I taught with that kind of semi-intellectual manipulation which one sees at its worst in the colleges, you see. And
Rules.
rules, intellectual theories,
Yes.
you know. You can talk about how to play a part, but until it finds its living roots in you, it's in your head.
It's what? It's in your head.
In
Yes.
your head.
It's in your head. Yes.
And I am against the head.
Yes.
See?
You have warm eyes.
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 That's enough of that. It's an exercise designed to eliminate all intellectuality from the actor's instrument and to make him a spontaneous responder to where he is, what's happening to him, what's being done to him.
In the beginning, there's an enormous amount of work and time devoted to getting rid of all kinds of prejudices about what acting really is, so that the initial work is a sort of a process of getting the actor to really pay attention to the other person. Isn't that correct?
Your hair is shiny.
Right.
Your hair is shiny.
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 You're making reading in order to create variety. You follow?
Yeah.
Don't.
Okay.
Do it again from another object.
That process went on for a considerable length of time until we were truly able to surrender all the sort of theatricalized behavior that we'd all practiced, you know, in summer stock or whatever it was that our varying backgrounds had provided for us.
Your earrings are small.
Your earrings
It's
are small.
empty. It's inhuman. Right? But it has something in it. It has connection. It's a connection which comes from listening to each other. But it has no human quality yet.
Why isn't this happening? Acting is the ability to live truthfully under the given imaginary circumstances. And what that simply means is whatever we do, we really do it. We don't fake it, we don't pretend it, we don't manipulate it, we don't become somebody else to do it. We work out of who we are and what Sandy called our sense of truth. Everybody comes to Hollywood or New York and wants to be an actor thinking it's about becoming somebody else. And what they all find out, especially when they come to our school, is that no, it's not about becoming somebody else. It's about stepping into who you are 100% and using you, because that's the best you can be. What Sandy taught and what we try to do, keeping that alive, is to teach you to be you, and you're unique, and you're individual, and your voice has meaning. So the greatest thing it does is it teaches people to use who they are. And I don't know anything else, including things outside of acting, that does it to the degree that this does. And that's why people will tell you, the ones that stick it out, they'll say this technique is not only a technique in learning how to act, but it's a technique in learning how to live life. And it changes people's lives. Sandy felt that actors had two major problems. One, they were self-conscious, and two, they didn't listen. And at one point, he was bedridden in a hospital for 3 days, and he had absolutely nothing to do, so he just laid there and thought about acting. And he thought, what can I do to get people to not be self-conscious and to truly learn to listen? And he thought, if we took a word, something that's true, as in blue shirt, the blue shirt you're wearing, you put that blue shirt on today, so you know that it's true and you're wearing it. I'm looking at you, I can see that it's blue. So therefore, we both know that statement is true. So when I say it to you and you repeat it back to me, we're not questioning anymore the truth or non-truth of that statement. So we stop listening to the word and we really truly begin to listen to the human being and how they're saying that word and the tone and the behavior in that word. And it is the best exercise in the world for an actor's concentration, because it truly forces them to get out of their brain. Because you cannot think and listen at the same time. And if I put my attention all on you 100%, then my self-consciousness automatically goes away, because I'm no longer thinking about me, I'm thinking about you. If you can't listen, you can't act. It doesn't matter how talented you are. If you're not listening, you don't know what happened. And life happens in the moment. It happens to us now when we're involved. If I'm living in the past, I'm not really alive. I'm focusing on something that's already done. If I'm thinking about the future and I'm worried, again, I'm thinking about something that's not real. It hasn't happened yet. The only thing that's real is what's going on between you and me right now, right here in this moment. And the next step in that would be the point of view. Once you bring point of view into it, you really leave the simple objects and you look deeper into the person. You look tired today. Yes, I look tired today. Yes, you are. And you start to see what that person really is. An ounce of behavior is worth a pound of words. And what that simply means is that behavior happens first. Whenever something happens to you, the last thing you do is utter a word. First thing is you feel, then you process it, then you speak it. Strasberg's technique, and this is very general statement, basically says that I will generate what I do, that it doesn't matter so much what you do. I'm going to cry on this line, I'm going to get angry on this line, and they generate the work themselves. And it does work for some actors. Stella's version of it started with the character. She was all about the character and then working back to the sense of truth in the person. But they would start with, you know, how does the character walk? How does it talk? What time period? And they would get all of that and work their way back. Whereas Sandy felt that actors basically had two major problems. One, they were self-conscious, and two, they don't listen. So he felt that when you put your attention on the other person and you open up to them and allow them to penetrate your defenses, that you naturally come to life. You don't have to try to get emotional. You don't have to try to feel or anything. It automatically happens. You may have shocked them, you may have made them angry, or you may have made them laugh. So in your third moment, you will read the meaning of what the other person has done. So it's just a very, very simple way of funneling down and being able to focus on one moment. And if you can do it once, you can do it twice, 3 times, and ultimately you should be able to do it in every moment in your repetition. Words lie. People lie all the time. We don't work off the words, we work off the behavior or what's behind the words. So when we're working with text, we're working with why the person is saying what they're saying, how they feel about what they're saying. And then we allow ourselves to do that and let you come into it, and I will let the words come out of me based on what you do. That's how they come out. So they will change a little bit every time. It will never be exactly the same. And it can't be, because life isn't stagnant. So if you do exactly the same thing the same way every single time, it's lifeless. Yeah. When we teach it, we say you're not allowed to ask questions. Now it's Sandy's technique, so when he's teaching, he can do whatever he wants. But the reason that we make statements for the most part instead of ask questions is the first thing when I ask you a question that you do is think. You have to think, what's the answer? And the whole point of the Meisner technique is to get out of your head, stop thinking, and work from your instincts. So that's one reason that we turn things into statements. The other reason is that 90% of the questions that you ask are just social. You already know the answer to. You know, are you okay? Your friend is sitting there crying and you say, are you okay? Well, obviously you know they're not. So it's really a meaningless question. So what we do is we just cut through all that. We go right to the heart of the matter.
What's it all about? Contact.
Being able to see what's going on in the other person, in their behavior.
Yes.
Your attention shouldn't be on yourself and your response, which becomes mental. It should be spontaneous from the other person's behavior.
There's something we do to pass the time away. What's the purpose of it, do you think?
Well, if you use this while you were doing a play or a scene, it would seem to me it would tend to keep what you were doing in connection with what the other person that you were playing off of was doing.
I think we do this in life. I mean, we do this all the time when we're talking about anything with someone. We work off their behavior, whether we know it or not, but this puts it so we can do it under imaginary circumstances. It makes us more sensitive.
Yeah. That's the living part in your definition, to live truthfully under imaginary. That's the life part of it. It's what happens between the two people.
You can't do anything unless the other fellow makes you do it.
What happens? Who depends? Who not? Who upon you? But upon what the other fellow does.
And that's really the core of the technique, is to, make a statement, really send it to somebody, and then let them penetrate you back with their statement. And when you do that, life happens. You don't have to try. People automatically feel. The independent activity is our version of how to create a circumstance. When you get a scene, ultimately, there's a situation, a circumstance, it's emotional, all that, and you need techniques how to do that. Our way of building that is through the independent activity. And it starts very simply with a difficult task that you really have to accomplish. And again, it's another way to take the attention off yourself. Because if you pick a task that is almost impossible for you to do, you are forced to put 100% of your attention on it to accomplish it. And in that very act, you've gotten out of your head, your instincts will take off. The next step in that, we add a time limit to it. It's called a sense of urgency. Because if something's almost impossible and I don't have enough time, I have to focus on it completely. My logic, my societal brain shuts down, and my animal and my instinctual brain takes off. The next step in that would be we add an emotional reason. And that's an emotional reason that truly affects you, overcomes you. It can be happy, it can be sad, it can be angry. It's teaching your actor's faith to believe the situation, because ultimately it's imaginary, but in that moment it's incredibly real, and your subconscious doesn't know the difference between what's real and what's not. So if you have the actor's faith to believe that situation's real, your subconscious will say, well, if that's true, here's how we feel about it. And all of those feelings will come flooding out. We say in preparation, you know, don't divulge it. And it's the same thing with any of your personal work. Nobody really needs to know what you're using. But now, when you bring it in context of an acting class, if Sandy's working with a student and it's not working, and he asks them, you know, what are you working from? Or I do that, and the student says, I can't say, you've just tied our hands. I can't help you at all. Because I don't know what's in your mind. I don't know what's in your heart. So if I don't have that information, I can't help you. The only reason he's asking, or I'm asking, is because we see it's not working, and we want to help you find where you went off track, that little piece. So in class, yes, there are times when you will reveal things about yourself, but it's only when it's not working. If something's working, nobody needs to know. I'd like to shoot the person who came up with the word character, because it's done more harm for acting classes, I think, than anything else in the world, because people come in thinking they're going to be somebody else, and that's the antithesis of great acting. As I said before, great acting starts with yourself. So in our program, the entire first year, we don't even use the word character. We don't bring it up, because until you can be yourself up there, open, vulnerable, in the different imaginary circumstances, what makes you think you can be somebody else? I'm an acting teacher, not a lawyer. I don't think much of corporate law, but I may have to play one. So in that point, I'm going to have to look at the viewpoint of how that person thinks about what they do. But what I will do then is, because corporate law bores me, but to this man, it's the greatest thing in the world, I'll go to myself and say, how do I relate to that? Well, when I teach acting, I feel like I'm on top of the world. So the way he feels about corporate law is the way I feel about this. But I will have to adjust how I do what I do to play that part. And that's really what Sandy said character work was. Character work is really simply how you do what you do.
You have big teeth.
I have big teeth?
You have big teeth.
I have big teeth?
Yes, you have big teeth.
All right, I have big teeth.
All right, you have big teeth.
All right, I have big teeth.
All right, a little bothered.
A little bit.
Just a little bit.
A little bit.
Just a little bit.
Just a little bit.
Just a little bit.
Just a little bit.
You missed something.
Yeah.
What?
You looked a little embarrassed by it.
That's right. That's right.
Oh, so I see.
I'm coming to that. Me too.
You look tough, Bob.
I look tough, Bob.
You look tough, Bob.
I look tough.
You look tough.
I look tough.
You look tough.
You got a kick out of that.
Yeah, I got a kick out of it.
Yeah, you got a kick out of it.
Yeah, I got a kick out of it.
Well, you got a kick out of it.
All right, I got a kick out of it.
All right, you got a kick out of it.
All right, I got a kick out of it.
All right, you got a kick out
Well,
of it.
don't get offended.
I'm not getting offended.
You're getting offended.
I am getting offended.
You are getting offended.
Going too far. Yeah, really? Okay, let me see your baby voice.
Little mustache.
I have a little mustache.
Kind of shocked you, huh?
Can I shock me?
Not really.
Not really.
Not really.
Not really?
No, not really.
Oh, no, not really.
Oh, no, not really.
Oh, no, not really.
That's beginning to bug you now.
Beginning to bug me.
Yeah, it's beginning to bug you.
Yeah, it's beginning to bug me.
Yeah, it's beginning to bug
Oh, you love that, don't you?
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
Didn't know what to say, huh?
No, I didn't know what to
Yeah,
say.
you didn't know what to say.
No, I didn't know what to say.
Didn't know what to say.
No, I didn't know what to say.
No, you didn't know what to say.
No, I didn't know what to say. You're getting a lot of enjoyment out of this.
Yes, I'm getting a lot of enjoyment out of it.
Yes, you are.
Don't stick your tongue out at me.
I wasn't sticking my tongue out at
You
you.
stuck your tongue out at me.
I didn't stick my
You stuck your tongue out at me.
I did not stick my tongue out at you.
You don't know what to say, do
No, I
you?
don't.
That was okay. Let me see. I'll work with you where you are. Don't move. Now, we gotta keep the repetition. We gotta keep the contact. This time, the contact, the repetition comes from my behavior, not only from my words. We start with something political.
I think Carter's going to win again.
You think I'm ready?
I think Carter's going to win.
You didn't do it. You think you didn't do it? What was I saying?
What, are you crazy?
Oh my God, that's awful.
Oh my God. You think you'll win?
No.
I'll do it again. Without the words. Same thing.
Same thing. I think Carter's going to win again.
Not pretty much the same thing. What was I saying?
Well, that's pretty awful.
You know, the acne is behavior.
It's also a transition into the beginning of what our real improvisation is. The person outside the door is coming from a real place. The person in the room is trying to do something, and those two emotional worlds will collide.
Study? What is it?
Okay, I heard you.
All right.
Okay. That is very truthful. The question here is, can you imitate? Stop company acting with the pinch and the ouch.
The pinch and the ouch goes back to the repetition. It basically says, I give you a stimulus. That stimulus causes an emotional response. That's really all the pinch and the ouch is.
Thank you.